there's a few transfers coming in for UCLA. We were talking about Brittain Brown already. But this year more than ever, things aren't really certain for these transfers. Their eligibility, their roles on the team, considering they didn't have spring ball. So Jack, I don't know. Do you think that not having a fall season and pushing it to the spring emphasizes the need for these transfers?
I think these transfers will probably be important out there for this year. Past this year, we might have to see a complete cutoff of transfers into this program, which I know is a bold statement, really a hot take, but let me explain. If guys are going to begin an extra year of eligibility no matter what, according to the NCAA this year, all of a sudden you're going to have a backlog for these next few years. If guys aren't going pro, which not a lot of UCLA guys are probably going to go pro, if they don't want to graduate, they want to stay in next year, and they have the ability to do that, a lot of guys are going to stay. We're going to have a backlog of players. I don't really think that we should rely on transfers after this season. We've had past really good transfers. We've had Josh Kelly here, but I don't really see it past this season. This might be the last good transfer class for the next decade for the Bruins.
See, but I don't think that really matters. You look at freshmen. Are you just going to recruit fewer high school players because you have more guys who are eligible? We don't know who's going to use that eligibility. We don't know who's going to graduate. There could be guys who have the extra year, said, no, I got my 4 years, got my degree, I'm not playing anyways. There are guys, you always go more talent, and especially this year. You have Evanston Njoku, who's a big tight end from Miami, really talented, freak athlete, and got a perfect body for that position. And you got Brittain Brown, who's also physical. He's an older guy from a Power 5 program who can step in and contribute right away. You don't want to just stick with what you have for the next 10 years. You always have to be looking for talent, whether that's coming out of high school, or it's a junior or senior, or it's a transfer. It could be a guy who's never played. It could be a guy from an FCS school or a JUCO. You have a lot of JUCO guys at UCLA. But transfers, Eboh is probably his number 2 corner if they play this spring. He's a grad transfer from Stanford, and he could be really shut down. He had an off year last year, but he's the kind of guy who could step in and just contribute right away, and you're always going to have that option with transfers.
I'm just saying, we discussed last week the implications that the 2021 recruiting class might have on the program. I think with all of those guys coming in, we've got a lot of really talented prospects. I don't want to be hiding them behind transfers. Transfers are good. Transfers are great. But if Chip Kelly really wants to build a program, he needs to try to elevate the players that he's bringing in, that he's going out to recruit personally. You can't just rely on getting guys from other schools. So what if, especially if everything happens and guys are getting more eligibility, they're thinking maybe I'll sit it out for 1 more year. I'll try to make it here for 1 more year. They're not going to be transferring as much. We can't really rely on that. We have 12, 13 guys now for this 2021 class, and it's still almost a year out. I mean, we could add a few more. Why would we need a bunch of transfers from that, especially if we're going to have a lot of holdouts?
Because transfers are talented. Ideally, the transfers you're targeting would be talented, and they're also experienced. You don't want to be playing your freshmen from day one. That is not a recipe for success. We saw 2 years ago, you have Wilton Spade as a grad transfer quarterback, but other than him, you had a really, really young team, one of the youngest teams in the country, and it didn't go very well. And you saw the team had to develop through the course of the year. Veteran teams play better than young teams, all things considered. Look at Joe Burrow. He's a transfer. Justin Fields, transfer. Obviously, quarterbacks, these high-profile quarterbacks are different than other positions, but it still remains the same. You have to go for talent.
Yeah, I mean, but for those universities, those are high-ranking, high-profile universities when it comes to football. UCLA is not that. We're not getting some of these guys that Joe Burrow went from Ohio State to LSU. We're not getting the former Ohio State backup quarterback to come to UCLA. I mean, we should be able to as a program, but we're not there yet. Chip Kelly should rely on the young guys. Why not? Why not just go young and really try to put them through the fire, man? Hold their feet to the fire. Make them learn through experience. That's what happened to DTR. That's what happened to Josh Rosen. Look how those guys are turning out. They put up some amazing games.
Because those guys were the cream of the crop coming out of high school. They were high profile, highly ranked recruits. You're not going to come out and start a bunch of 3-star freshmen just because you want to develop them. That's not a recipe for winning football. This isn't the NBA where you draft a guy and you want him to play from day one. UCLA did not have a lot of starting freshmen last year. You had Sean Ryan, who was great, but not everyone can be Sean Ryan. Not everyone can be a top-ranked left tackle, come in and be a freshman All-American like Sean Ryan was. Sometimes you look at DTR. You're talking about DTR. Who won the starting quarterback job? Wilton Speight, because he was more experienced and he made fewer mistakes on the team. And when he got hurt, DTR came in, and yeah, his feet were held with fire, and it showed. That was good development for him. But the Bruins were in the best position to win in 2018 when Wilton Speight was out there, because you would rather have an experienced player from a Power 5 program, whether or not it's your own, than a freshman.